Welcome to you for this second session of the EMCC Global new series of webinars, reflective and reflexive practice sessions with today the STAR model indeed. So welcome to you all coaches, mentors, leader coaches, all practitioners. So let's start, let's begin. I will share my screen with a hand and we are going to share today. Don't forget that this session is built to experiment, really, to live the model. So after the presentation, the explanations, you will have the opportunity to really experiment things, okay? So let's present ourselves. I'm Catherine Marissiaux. I'm live in France, as you may hear, probably. I'm co-leader of the project with Anne, and I'm a coach. I'm a master practitioner coach and certified supervisor. And you can see my contributions to EMCC Global. I'm not going to read all the lines, but I'm really very happy to be there. And I really feel a real joy to share and transmit. So that's me. And I was engaged at EMCC for several years as a member of the board and with the EMCC Global as assessor, facilitator for accreditation and verifier as well. Anne.
Yes, so here I am, partner in crime. So I'm Anne Berthelin, and so I'm co-leader of this project. That's really an idea we had together, Catherine and I, especially accompanying people who are taking the accreditation and realizing how useful that would be for all of us. So I'm a senior practitioner, hoping, I keep my fingers crossed, to get master soon. I'm also a supervisor, and I'm really pleased to be here with you, and I hope we have a wonderful time. I've been with the EMCC since I graduated as a coach in 2006. At the time, it wasn't called EMCC in France, but Association Européenne de Coaching. That was a long time ago. I feel like it was ages ago. But today we're here to reflect together and learn a new model. And we wouldn't be here without Nicola.
Nicola.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I'm Nicola. I pop up on all kinds of Zoom meetings most of the time. I'm in the communications. I work with the EMCC Global for communications. I'm a communications consultant, a chartered one. And I pop up on lots of Zoom events, and I sort newsletters out and websites and communications and social media and everything. And that's me. And I'm really delighted to be here with you all and with Catherine and Anne as well. I did do my own coach training a couple of years ago now, and I do some coaching, but my main thing is communications.
Great. Thank you, Nicola. So a few words about the genesis of the project. Actually, as EMCC Global volunteers with HAM, involved in facilitating, mentoring the accreditation journey for coaches, mentors, and leader coaches in many countries for EMCC Global, we always underline the importance of the reflective approach. You hear about that so often. And it's at the heart of the accreditation process and at the heart of also at the core of the continuous professional development of the practitioner. So that's very important, but we have observed with our peers that few practitioners really know what is it about, how does it work, what is it exactly. So this led us to this idea, to this project a year and a half ago, approximately with Han, to propose to offer webinars for EMCC Global to make the practice of reflective and reflexive approach understandable, experimentable, to create a specific space for practicing it with peers and experts in the field. So that was the genesis of the project. And
yes, so really we're here to hopefully make understandable what reflection and reflexive practice is. Very often we don't even know the difference, and I think we'll go through that in a second. And it's especially useful to keep on building up our muscles as practitioners and keep on growing. And it's useful, of course, for the accreditation, but in general, I think it's a healthy practice, period. And we're really hoping, we want to provide a safe space to experiment these reflective and reflexive tools. That's really the idea here. So, yeah, I guess it's a place where we can develop our ethical maturity and anything we need to develop thanks to those models.
so what's in it for you in all this? As we told you just before, mentor coaches or leader coaches are welcome here. For those of you who are engaged in the EIA accreditation journey, but not only, indeed, it's really for all practitioners wanting to embed reflection and reflexivity in their practice as this continuous development process. And the format is a format of bi-monthly webinars. We are concepting it and facilitating it with Han. And alternatively, we will have robust models as today we did a STAR model, and with special guests as well. The last time in January, we had Karen Prentice and Elaine Patterson with the 7 C's model, which was really great. And next time in May, we will have Claire Beckett with us. Claire Beckett has wrote many things about reflexivity and reflection. She has conceived tools and games for creative reflexive practice. So we will have this special guest next time. And we will also offer in the next months co-creation with a group of participants for reflective approach that we will welcome everyone in the diversity. That's the aim we have in mind also. Okay, so that's what I need for you. The planning.
And yes, and as Catherine just explained, we alternate session with guests and sessions with robust models, and that's what we're doing. You see, next time will be May 21st in English with Claire Beckett, and the session 4 will be on the Gibbs model, and that'll be in June.
Yeah, for the English sessions, yeah. So let's go. What is it about?
Yes, reflective and
what are we talking about? There are really 2 clearly distinct key steps to have in mind.
So first of all, there's the reflective approach, and that's really how we understand the situation on a 360-degree basis. So really looking all around with a systemic view. And
we have the reflexive approach, which is more in-depth reflection about oneself, about what we are learning and challenging, what is challenged in ourselves with what we are living as practitioners. So the situation at 360 degrees, then the reflexive approach, and we're going to enter in details.
Yes, so those 2 steps, and they're really critical, because what we see as assessors for EMCC Global is that very often the first part, reflective, is pretty okay. And it's more on the second part that we need to keep growing. So really the reflective practice is about understanding oneself, understanding the others and the context. So it's really the systemic approach me, the environment, and the broader view. And also the values that go with that, all the values that are at stake, personally, professionally, in the organizations, in the cultures, in the world, so that we can develop a critical consciousness.
And then at the other hand of the spectrum, you have the reflexivity. It's a more in-depth process of reviewing and revising ethical ways of being a coach and relating as a coach. As you can see, this brings you to think about what this brings as challenges for your own assumptions, your attitudes. This challenges prejudice, your habits, your skills. You will have questions about yourself, about the situation, but mainly about your representation as a coach, your identity as a coach. And this can bring you to ethical maturity at the last stage, to develop your personal mastery, to enrich your practice. When will I stop? When will I start?
Mm-hmm.
What will I decide to reinforce in my practice to be more mature, but also more aligned and more in good discernment about what I'm doing, the impact of what I'm doing. You know, in EIA framework, you have the first competency, self-awareness, which is not only what I know from myself about myself, but also the consciousness of the impact of all I am, of all I choose to do on my clients, on my coaching, on my processes with organizations as well. So this is the most important part in the reflective and reflexive practice, to gain learning outcomes that will become concrete actions in your practice. And I need to underline the difference between thoughtful action or common reflection and reflective practice. This is something really different. Here in this practice, it's something of like a conscious effort, ongoing efforts as a practitioner. You have a deliberate cycle. It's something that contributes to your continuous professional development. It's at the core of the coach journey, really. And there is really something enthusiastic about that, to celebrate one's journey to like this. Nicola is going to share in the chat the link to EMCC Global Policy and guidelines about reflective practice. I just quote one part of the text, which is quite illustrative. It says, in the context of EMCC Global Accreditation, the nature of reflective practice is seen as a dynamic inquiry of thinking with a purpose, to deliberate on issues and perceptions related with one's professional practice. That's where we are. Let's experiment with the STAR model. We're going to present the STAR model.
And thanks to that, we will be stars ourselves.
Yeah. So,
sorry.
just a word of introduction about the STAR model. It's a very well-known model, originated in the education field, in university teaching, and it has spread to many other fields, including coaching. It provides a focus on reflective and reflexive practice on action, and also you can use it for future action. So that's very interesting on these two ways of looking at it. It's quite different from the 7 C's model we've had in January. The 7 C's model was more focused on a global view of yourself as being a coach globally, and it was not aimed, the 7 C's model, it was not aimed at looking at specific situations you encounter as a coach or mentor or leader coach. Here with the STAR model, you will be able to experiment with specific situations. So that's what we're going to discover together. You have first the situation, the S. Then, and you have
the tasks. Yes.
I will explain what is underneath. The action.
The result of the action that was taken.
Yeah, and the last stage, most important, reflection. So the first letter, S, situation. You'll have to describe the situation you were in or the task you needed to accomplish, or you will have to accomplish, because you can use it for action, for future action as well.
And what entails the task is really how we can describe the challenges that we are facing, also the expectations, what needs to be done, or what needed to be done, or what will need to be done, and why. Really, it's really how we can raise that awareness.
Then comes the A, action. You elaborate on your specific action. What did you do, and how did you do it? Or what will you do and how?
And hence the results. So we would like, to explain the result, what we've achieved, and the outcome. So here we are. It's really in the field. What is the result? When I've got an action, what is the result? And it's okay. It's just how we learn from that. So here it is to you, Catherine.
And last stage, reflection. What did you learn about your approach or about yourself? What will you do differently next time? What are the learning outcomes of what you've lived? That's the key point. Okay, let's enter in more details now.
Yeah, we're going to drill in to give more examples of what it means.
You will have this page sent in the chat by Hardy and Nicola. Yeah, so keep it, take it and keep it, because you will need it in the breakout rooms we are going to propose you afterwards. I mentioned that the recording will stop for the breakout rooms once we'll be in experimentation. We record here to present the model, but afterwards it will stop. So we present here the kind of questions you can ask yourself to go through this journey with the STAR model. For the situation, you can explain the context, the 5 W's and the 1 H questions: what, where, when, who, why, how. Who are the stakeholders? What are the facts? Can you present the systemic view of the situation?
And that leads us to the task. So what was or what is your role? What exactly did you want to achieve, or what are you achieving? What is expected or was expected of you or others? What did you expect from yourself in that situation? And how did you feel about the roles, whether they are explicit or implicit? And what about the demand, the real demand, and maybe the demands you can feel behind? Because as we always know in coaching, you've got the demand in front of you and what is underneath the iceberg. What were the key objectives and indicators you built with the stakeholders?
Then step 3, action. How did you approach the situation and why? What actions and steps did you take and why? What did you say and how did it relate to what you did? How did you deal with your action? Was there satisfaction or disappointment in your performance? How did you feel? How have you tried to improve the situation? Which coaching competencies have you used or not?
Yeah, and we come to the result wondering what worked well or not, and why. How did this situation turn out in the end? and what was your part in the end result? What was the part of other stakeholders in the end result as well? And do you feel that you succeeded as a coach here? Why, if you feel you did, and why not if you feel you didn't? And maybe what we like is really looking at the resistance or the difficulties or ethical dilemmas that we encountered. What do we think about this, and how we may have overcome them correctly, or maybe with difficulties? What happened with that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right to mention difficulties because we learn a lot with difficulties.
Always.
The last stage reflection, the kind of question you can use for this stage are the following. What have you learned from the situation? Are you satisfied and why? What is the core of what you've learned? What could you do differently next time? Can you also apply what you've learned in other situations? How did other stakeholders react to your actions? It's a question of impact there. Do you think your ethical position was okay there? Do you feel aligned and at the right place? How did you feel about the end result? What assumptions, representations, automatism were challenged in you through these situations? And how are you going to change, enrich, adjust your practice? Okay.
That is the question.
Yeah. And you will choose among situations you've encountered, whether this is an experience with a client or with a group, whether it's a supervision session that was really a source of a big learning outcome, whether it comes from a client feedback or about trainings you followed, or about your CPD, your continuous professional development with conferences or whatever, or readings. You can use all these kind of situations to use a STAR model for your reflection. So let's give an example. Anne and I are going to give you an example. I chose an example, as far as I'm concerned, with a client experience. So I explained to you what happened there. For the first stage of STAR, the situation. I'm coaching a COO, a Chief Operation Officer for France, who is part of an international organization that is already well established on his market and has managed to find new commercial development niche at the top end of the market. The COO I coach has been promoted internally, and he was the former CPO, Chief Production Officer. He's recognized as an expert manager. In this company, new managers are entering in production, quality, supply, many changes. Technology is evolving just as fast with customization and artificial intelligence in the production process. The coaching stakeholders are the French CEO, the Chief Human Resource Officer, the COO I coach, and myself. We have a startup meeting, 10 2-hour sessions scheduled, halfway meeting in the middle of the journey, and we scheduled to have a review meeting at the end. I noticed from the beginning that the culture is based on loyalty, commitment, with traditional vertical management, fairly directive and operational. So that's the presentation of the situation. Let's go to stage 2 task. I was chosen as a coach after a previous meeting with the COO. He has to work on the following objectives during his coaching. He needs to work on his management skills to meet today's challenges, empowerment, delegation, fostering a performance culture, embodying a more collaborative leadership. And he also needs to learn how to step back from everyday activity and discern how he can decide and act in complex situations in good intelligence with other stakeholders in the company. Right from the start, I can see that the CEO is facing a big challenge himself, is about to retire, and he wants to make a success of his last year. He wants things to move quickly and is a fervent advocate of efficiency. So that's stage 2. Stage 3, action. I choose to make my client aware of his ecosystem in the first stage of the coaching. The issues at stake, the areas of risks around him, the alliances he has to build, and the priorities he has to address. The issue of putting responsibilities in the right places quickly emerges, as well as the necessity to co-construct, expose, and empower the teams. Then we worked on him, his management, his personality, his way of operating, and so that he can measure the impact of his way of being and better discern the kind of leader he wants to become. The COO is taking impactful decisions in the first month. He is also challenging the board, the French board, of which is a member, to work more collaboratively during the board sessions. I have a good alliance with him. Everything seems okay, but, because there's a but, but I've noticed that the CEO is bombarding him with detailed operational demands in a directive mode, as before, as always, and that the COO, my client, doesn't have the organizational resources for the responsibilities he's being asked to take on. We are on session 5 on 10, and I find my client stressed, and I alert him about that. I echo the emotions I received from him, and he realizes with this echo I gave him how much things have to change indeed. And he cannot go on like that. Me, the coach, I feel that I can be caught up by the system if I do not change anything. And then the halfway meeting arrives. During the meeting, the coachee talks about the journey in his coaching, his realization, and he also speaks about his stress and the fact that he has too much to take on alone. Is asking for changes in the way the board members interact for better efficiency and less risks. And me, the coach, I also share, we had agreed about that with the coachee before, I also share what I observe in the organization. There is a kind of pattern I observe, always more of the same thing, everyone running, but no space for addressing the strategic key points together in the board. That's the action. Let's go to stage 4, results. The observations, the feedbacks to the organization and the feedback from the coachee was a real jolt for the CEO. He opened his eyes. He thanked me for the feedback. He had just not seen the risks, actually. The board has changed the way it works. Apart from the weekly meetings they already had, very operational, they decided to have a specific meeting every fortnight to deal with complex and strategic points all together in collective intelligence. They also decided to be coached as a collective group for the board, not with me, which was quite good, ethically and deontologically speaking. The COO has changed his time management, taking more time than before to reflect, to prepare strategic issues instead of being always on the floor with his teams and so forth. And I confronted the coach and the organization in a healthy way, and ethically, I made the choice to dare to talk about what I've observed and the risk they were taking. Of course, it was not finished. It's their action. It's their company. It's not mine. And I'm very aware about that. Last stage, reflection. I learned to positively confront not only the coachee with the echo about his stress, but also the organization on the basis of what I've observed, making hypotheses and giving possible transformation path. They will decide what they want to do with that. My action was useful to transform the board way of doing things. And I was challenged before doing that. I was challenged in my own loyal part. You see, the kind of good student part of me who asks, wow, who am I to say that to an organization? I'm just a coach. But in the end, I felt totally legitimate to speak on the basis of what I've observed. My key learning of all this is the following. As a coach in such situation, I'm legitimate to say to my clients that, yes, I'm not interested in running faster. And it's dangerous for them too. So that's my example. And
yes, and to give you another quick example of what it can look like in your EIA accreditation documentations, there is something around CPD. And if I take CPD as an example, my situation is that, well, I'm training like all of you. As coaches, we need to keep on learning and training ourselves. And recently I finished a training around leadership embodiment, so leadership embodiment coaching training, because it's part of what I want to do, is put more body for myself and for my clients. If I move on to the task, what is the task for me is how I integrate more body in my work as a coach for myself first, so that I feel more embodied and more present, and maybe capable of handling different situations. And it's also how I can offer that to my clients. But that's another step. That's first myself and then the others, without having an intention, because as coaches, we don't have intentions. And at the same time, I would like to put more body in my sessions. So you see, we're really somewhere in the middle. What actions have I taken? Well, for myself, before a session, I do my centering exercise that I've learned in leadership embodiment, and I find it really useful because it allows me to be very present and available. And I think I'm better when I do that than when I don't do it. And I'm also aware of my stress patterns, and I see when I'm getting stressed, and then I can do center again. And at the same time, I had a session with a client, and I could observe how she was really all over the place, and it was very hard for this person to arrive and be present in the session. So I decided that I would offer the centering exercise to her too. And that's what we did. What is the result if I move on to step 4? What was the result? That she had a huge insight, that she realized it wasn't that difficult actually to gather herself and to be present again and to breathe. It was a beautiful insight. She was so happy that she could connect to herself. And when she connected to herself, she could connect to me, and she could connect to what was present for her. And it was really beautiful to see her relaxing, you know, for herself, and relax with me as well in the session. So what is the reflection? What I've learned from that experience is that I can offer this exercise when it's really in the right place. And also something that I've learned in terms of key learning is that now I have a document. I had to write a document because for me it's obvious, because I've been doing this exercise so many times, at least 5 times a day, that it's very natural now. But for her, it wasn't. And in order for her to keep that as a resource, I wrote a small document so that I can hand it over to my client the next time. So that's it for me, just to give you another example of how it can be used, this STAR model, to reflect.
Mhm.
But I think now it's going to be your turn.
Yeah, and when you enter this habit to reflect on the situations you encounter, when you write in your logs, your personal logs, that's just hyper stimulating as a practitioner. That's how we grow, really. And this is the positive thing of the accreditation process when we speak about accreditation. I lost the screen once again. Sorry, I touched the wrong. I tried to.
What are we learning from that?
It's too.
Okay.
I come back. Here we are.
Yes.
And
Brilliant.
yeah, the last stage, you've understood it well. The last stage is the most important one. Concretely speaking, you have to decide what you will stop doing, what you will start doing, what you will reinforce in your practice, and what you will have to prepare maybe also in your practice for good and regular reflective approach on your actions and for your actions, and maybe after that in action, which are the three timings that are key in a reflective approach. Okay. So now we are going to experiment in breakout rooms. We are going to propose you to be in trios. And for the first sequence, we're going to propose you to have 20 minutes for one of the members of the trios. So one of you will choose a situation from your experience with clients, or your CPD, or your supervision, or your feedback from clients, or your ethical dilemma encountered, or your business as a coach, maybe. This kind of situation can also be used for a STAR model. So you will choose a situation, and the other two persons will facilitate you with the STAR model. So
yes, and what we said we would offer you to do is that, like we did with Catherine at the beginning, that one does the S, the other one does the T, then the other one the A, then the of results, and the other one reflections. It allows you to alternate, and also you don't have to use the full list of questions, but maybe you pick 1, 2, or 3 that makes sense with the topic that the person brings, and then you can play with that. The idea is that it's playful and that everybody participates.
Yeah. Take this really as an experimentation, a learning experimentation. So let's start. You have 20 minutes, and you'll come back in the main room in 20 minutes, and we have a first debrief together. Each one of you will have the occasion to experiment.